I turned her luxury SUV into a giant snow globe. And no, I don't regret it.
Not after what she did.
What started as a stolen parking space turned into weeks of humiliation, lies, and public embarrassment. She tried to ruin my reputation. She left notes on my car. She reported me to the community center for aggression. All because I dared to call her out. She had the haircut, the oversized sunglasses, the fake sympathy smile that came with a side of pure venom. Her name was Karen, and she treated the entire town like her personal playground. Until the day I fought back. It was the middle of a snowstorm. She parked in her usual stolen handicap spot, using her dead ex-husband's expired placard. And while she was inside loudly berating a grocery clerk about almond milk, I was outside with my snowblower, building her a personal igloo. By the time she came out, her car was sealed in front, back, both sides, trapped in a fortress of frozen justice. And when the crowd gathered and her life finally unraveled, let's just say, she wasn't the one holding the moral high ground anymore. Some people say revenge is petty. But in a town buried under 3 feet of snow, it's just creative landscaping. I'm a 39-year-old woman living in a snowy corner of the Midwest, where the winters are long, the coffee is strong, and the local gossip moves faster than a snowplow on Christmas Eve. I've been a second-grade teacher at the local elementary school for over a decade now. I love my job most days anyway. The kids are hilarious, messy, and somehow always sticky, but they keep my heart full. Outside of work, my life's pretty quiet. I live in a modest 2-bedroom house on a cul-de-sac with my golden retriever, Jasper. I volunteer at the community center twice a month. And I help my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Dupree, with groceries every Sunday like clockwork. Mrs. Dupree is 84 years old, a retired nurse, and sharp as a tack, though her knees aren't what they used to be. So I pick her up every Sunday morning, help her into the car, and we do our weekly loop, as she calls it, the pharmacy, the grocery store, and if she's feeling wild, the thrift shop for puzzles. It's not glamorous, but it's ours. And in a small town like ours, little routines are everything. People know me around here. I'm not one of those loud personalities, but folks recognize me at the post office or at the diner. I've never had a real enemy in my life. I'm polite. I hold doors open. I shovel not just my sidewalk, but the elderly couples across the street. I wave to kids on the school bus even when it's too early and I'm still half asleep. My life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, peaceful, until she showed up. I didn't even know her name the first time we crossed paths. She wasn't from around here. That much was obvious. New people don't usually make a splash unless they join the town Facebook group or bring a pie to the community potluck. But she didn't do either. She just appeared. At first, I only saw her in passing. She'd drive this shiny, black luxury SUV, cleaner than anything that should be legal during a Midwest winter, through town like she was too good for our pothole-ridden streets. Always parked front and center. Always looking like she was on her way to yell at a cashier somewhere. And I'll admit it, something about her rubbed me the wrong way from the start. Maybe it was the smug expression she wore like it was a designer accessory. Or the way she walked through the grocery store like she was inspecting a kingdom she didn't ask for. She was the kind of woman who wore full activewear, but never broke a sweat. Chunky white sneakers, Lululemon leggings, and one of those giant totes with a motivational quote like, "I don't sweat, I sparkle." You know the type. She had that haircut. The one everyone jokes about online. Short and sharp in the back, long in the front, like a blonde visor of judgment. And those nails? Glossy French tips. Perfect for pointing at innocent employees while saying things like, "This is unacceptable." At first, I didn't think much of her. We all have our quirks, right? But then came the day that changed everything. The day she didn't just drive through town like she owned it, she acted like she actually did. It was a Sunday. The kind where the sky looks like a giant gray cotton ball and snow flurries just won't quit. I just picked up Mrs. Dupree for our usual grocery run, and she was in a cheery mood, humming some old jazz tune in the passenger seat while Jasper snoozed in the back. We pulled into the grocery store lot, which was basically a war zone of slush and ice patches by that point. The snowplows had done a half-decent job, but spaces were still buried, and people were being extra cautious. I spotted the spot, right up front near the entrance. Someone was pulling out, and I had my blinker on, waiting patiently, careful not to slide. As the other car backed out, I glanced at Mrs. Dupree and said, "We lucked out today." I inched forward, about to turn the wheel into the space, when
Screech.
a black SUV flew in from the opposite direction and slid right into my spot, practically clipping my front bumper in the process. I slammed on the brake, jaw dropping. Mrs. Dupree gasped. Did she just?
Oh, she did.
The SUV came to a smug little halt, and out stepped none other than the Queen herself. Oversized sunglasses, flashy tote, hair stiff with hairspray, and layered like she lost a bet with her stylist.
She didn't even look at me.
I rolled down the window and called out, "Excuse me, I was waiting for that spot." She turned to face me, lifted her glasses just enough to show off the icy glare underneath, and said, "Sorry, sweetie. First come, first served. You look like you were just sitting there." Then she smiled. That smug, condescending smile I'd later learn was her signature. And with a dismissive flip of her acrylic nails, she disappeared into the store. I sat there, stunned. Mrs. Dupree, bless her, leaned closer to the window and said, "I hope her eggs are cracked and her milk's expired." We both laughed, kind of, but honestly, I was shaking. Not from the cold, but from the audacity. I circled the lot and finally found a space 2 rows away, near a snowbank that looked like it had claimed a few shopping carts and one lost mitten. Helping Mrs. Dupree through the icy path while watching that woman's SUV sit pretty right where I should have been. It burned. Inside the store, we kept running into her. She breezed through the aisles, bumping carts without apologizing, sighing loudly at slow walkers and loudly asking where the organic avocados were hidden. I kept my distance, but she made it hard. When I reached the checkout, there she was again, cutting the express lane even though she had enough produce to feed a football team. The cashier looked flustered. No one said anything. That's when I learned her name. She pulled out her card and said, "It's under Karen Whitmore. That's Whitmore. You'll want to remember that."
Karen.
Of course. We made it home eventually, but the mood had shifted. Mrs. Dupree was quiet.
So was I.
Later that night, I posted in the town's Facebook group, just a little vent, nothing mean. Something like, friendly reminder to respect turn signals in parking lots, especially when helping elderly neighbors in bad weather. I didn't name names, but she must have seen it, because the next week, things escalated.
Fast.
That Facebook post? It lit a spark I didn't see coming. By Tuesday, the comment section had turned into a full-on debate. Most people agreed, posting things like, "Some folks need a lesson in manners," or "Happened to me last week too." But tucked in there, like a roach hiding in the wall, was this gem. Maybe people should stop playing victim and learn how to park better. Just saying. Guess who it was from? Yup. Karen Whitmore. Her profile pic was just as you'd expect. Her holding a latte, lips pursed, sunglasses on inside what looked like a nail salon. I didn't engage. I didn't want drama. But she clearly did. The next time I saw her, it was at the store again. Same SUV. Same parking spot. This time, she wasn't content just cutting me off. She stood outside her car, waiting for me to walk by, arms crossed, lips curled like she smelled something rotten. "You know," she said, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "some of us have real things to complain about. Not just snowflakes whining about parking spots." I ignored her. At least I tried. But the worst part came later that day. When I came out of the store, there was a note on my windshield, written in red marker on the back of a receipt. "Maybe stay home next time." This town doesn't need more bitter spinsters taking up space. My hands shook reading it. I looked around, but the lot was mostly empty. Mrs. Dupree saw it too. Her face went tight with anger. "You want me to write her a letter?" she asked. "I may be old, but I've got words sharp enough to slice a frozen steak." I smiled, but I felt sick. Karen had crossed a line. And it didn't stop there. 2 days later, I was volunteering at the community center, setting up folding chairs for the senior craft night, when the director, Bethany, pulled me aside. "I just wanted to check in," she said gently. "Someone emailed saying you've been acting aggressive and unpleasant lately. Complaints from a few folks." I blinked. "What? From who?" Bethany looked uncomfortable. She didn't leave a name, but she mentioned a parking lot incident, and that you made her feel unsafe. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. "She nearly hit me with her car, Bethany. She took the spot from me." Bethany nodded. "I believe you. Really, I do. But we just have to document these things now." I felt the heat rise in my chest. I'd lived here for 15 years. Taught dozens of kids. Shoveled snow. Baked muffins, ran coat drives, and now I was being painted as dangerous? I left early that night. Went home and cried in my car for 20 minutes before going inside. I was so rattled, I didn't even realize what was happening in the town Facebook group until a coworker messaged me. "Hey, you seeing what Karen just posted?" She'd uploaded a blurry picture of me helping Mrs. Dupree into my car. Caption: "Some people pretend to help the elderly for attention. It's not charity if you have to broadcast it every week. Sick of fake kindness." The comments were brutal. People defending her. Others defending me. It turned into a whole thing. But something in me cracked that night. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. This woman didn't just steal a parking space. She wanted to take my reputation, too. She wanted to stomp into my quiet, peaceful life and ruin it just because she could. And I was not going to let her. So I started paying attention. I took note of what time she showed up at the store, which days she went to yoga, which community events she attended, and who she sat with. And that's when I noticed something odd. Karen always parked in the same handicap space, right up front. But I'd never seen her limp, never seen her use a cane, never once saw her wearing a brace or struggling to walk. She power walked into the store in her brand name leggings like she was training for a mall marathon. It got me thinking. One day, I parked nearby and waited. I watched her hop out of her SUV, slap a placard on her dash, and strut into the store like she owned the place. I crept closer, and that's when I saw it. The placard was expired. Issued under the name Douglas Whitmore. Not Karen. Douglas. I did some digging later that night, and found his obituary. Her ex-husband passed away a year ago. She was using his placard to illegally park in a disabled spot. And suddenly, everything clicked. She wasn't just mean. She wasn't just petty. She was a fraud. And I knew exactly how I was going to expose her. But first, I needed the right moment, the perfect stage, and a little help from Mother Nature. After I saw that expired placard, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying every smug glance, every underhanded insult, every fake little sigh she'd let out in public like she was the victim. And now I knew the truth. She wasn't just stealing my peace. She was literally stealing parking spaces from disabled people who actually needed them. And the town? They had no idea. Because Karen was slippery. She knew just how to twist the story, how to smile sweetly in public and then turn around and weaponize her words behind your back. But this time, I had proof. I snapped a clear photo of the placard in her windshield. It was visibly cracked, faded, and the name Douglas Whitmore was readable at the bottom. The expiration date? 9 months earlier. I called my friend, Erin, who works at City Hall. I didn't name names, I just asked if it was legal to use a placard issued to someone else, even a family member. She didn't hesitate. Nope. That's actually a fine of up to $500. And if they're caught multiple times, they can lose their license. Bingo. I could have reported her right then and there. Could have emailed that photo to the DMV and been done with it. But part of me, okay, a big part of me, wanted her to feel it. Not just the ticket, not just the embarrassment. I wanted her to understand what it's like to be trapped, humiliated, and completely powerless. So I waited. And then the forecast came in. A big one. 12 inches overnight. Blizzard warnings. They even closed the schools. And I saw my opportunity. Karen, being Karen, didn't believe in staying home during storms. She still went to the grocery store the next morning, probably to loudly demand almond milk or complain that the kale looked wilty. And she, of course, parked in her usual illegal spot, front and center, right next to a huge pile of snow that the plows had shoved aside. I was already there, bundled up in my thickest coat, snowblower prepped in the back of my truck, just clearing the lot like a good citizen. Karen didn't even notice me, too busy glaring at her phone, stomping through the slush in her pristine boots. I waited until she was inside. Then I got to work. I started with the back of her SUV, building a wall of snow, packed tight and high with my snowblower. Then the sides. Then the front. I used a mix of snow, ice chunks, and slush to create thick, icy barriers. Not enough to damage anything, just enough to make her car look like it was encased in a snow globe. I even added a little sprinkle of rock salt for sparkle. It took maybe 30 minutes. By the end, her car was completely surrounded. Not touching it, no risk of scratches, but definitely not going anywhere fast. A few people walked by and gave me curious looks. One old man chuckled and said, "Creative plowing technique." I just smiled. And then I waited. Karen came out 10 minutes later, arms full of overpriced groceries and irritation. She stopped short, stared at the snow walls. At first, she looked confused. Then, furious. She dropped a bag, eggs cracked across the pavement, and started shouting. Who the hell did this? I walked over slowly, like I had no idea what was going on. Oh no, I said sweetly. Did someone block you in? Her face went red. You've been harassing me for weeks. I'm calling the cops. I tilted my head. I'm just out here helping clear the lot, Karen. Doing my part. She stomped toward me, heels slipping in the slush. That's vandalism. You buried my car. Technically, I said, I never touched your vehicle. I just moved snow around it. Public snow. On public ground. She blinked. Jaw tight. Other shoppers started gathering. Mrs. Dupree appeared out of nowhere, holding a bag of pretzels like she was watching live theater. A teenager pulled out their phone and started recording. Karen saw the attention. And that's when I went in for the kill. I walked over to her windshield, tapped the glass, and said, loudly, "Also, is this your handicap placard? Because it says Douglas Whitmore. And it expired last year." You could hear a pin drop. Someone gasped. A woman near the carts muttered, "That's disgusting." Karen looked like she might explode. "Mind your business," she screeched. "You don't know anything." But it was too late. People were whispering,
Pointing.
taking photos. The story was out. And there was no spinning it this time. Karen wasn't used to being on the defense. She stood there frozen, partially from shock, partially from the icy wind now whipping across the lot, her perfectly layered bob slowly deflating under her beanie. "That's none of your business," she shrieked again, louder this time, her voice cracking. "You have no right to question me." But people weren't buying it anymore. The teenager recording her muttered, "You've been parking in a handicap spot with your dead ex's tag?" Karen spun toward him. "Stop filming me." He didn't stop. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Not huge, but enough. The kind of crowd that doesn't say much, but doesn't miss a thing. Some leaned against carts. One guy casually leaned on a shovel like it was a popcorn bucket. And me? I just stood there, calm, with the kind of smile you earn after 3 weeks of being gaslit and publicly humiliated. You tried to report me for harassment, I said slowly, so everyone could hear. You spread lies, left notes on my car, told people I was a threat. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just that sour, bitter expression that happens when someone realizes the walls are finally closing in. I was going to report you quietly, I continued, pulling out my phone. But since you like doing things in public, I tapped my photo gallery, pulled up the clear shot of the expired placard, held it up so others could see. It's expired, I said, and not in her name, and she's been using it for months. One of the grocery store employees, Sam, a college kid who bags groceries and knows everyone in town, stepped closer. We've had complaints, he said, about someone abusing the disabled spots. Management didn't know who. Guess we do now. Karen looked around, like she was searching for anyone, to back her up. But all she got were narrowed eyes and folded arms. Y'all don't understand, she said, lowering her voice a little, trying a new angle. My ex gave it to me before he passed. It's been a rough year. Someone in the back scoffed. A woman near the cart shouted, So you honor his memory by stealing disabled spots? Karen's lip trembled. She turned toward her snow-surrounded SUV, maybe to escape, maybe to regroup, but it was still completely entombed in that icy fortress. She wasn't going anywhere. And that's when the final nail hit. Sam pulled out his walkie-talkie. I'm reporting this to management. We have to notify the police, too. That's fraud. Karen's head snapped toward him.
No.
No. This is crazy. I didn't do anything wrong. This is all her fault. She pointed at me, nails shaking. She's had it out for me. She attacked my car. I raised a brow. Attacked? I moved snow around it, Karen. That's not a crime. You know what is a crime? Misusing a placard that doesn't belong to you. People nodded. Someone said, Call the cops already. And just like that, she cracked. Karen dropped her shopping bags again. Yogurt rolled across the parking lot like a sad little grenade. She stomped over to her car, slipped on the ice, caught herself, and started kicking the snowbank in front of her tires. This is insane, she screamed. You people are crazy. It was honestly surreal. Here was this woman who'd waltzed into town like she was better than all of us, who thought she could push people around, lie, cheat, and never face consequences. And now, she was red-faced, screaming at snowbanks, while people filmed her from 3 angles. Eventually, she managed to dig out just enough snow with her bare hands to yank open the driver's door and climb in. But even then, she wasn't leaving. Because that snow wall? It was solid. That SUV was going nowhere fast. Minutes later, the cops showed up. Someone must have called them. Or maybe Sam had already reported it through the store. I didn't have to say much. They looked at the placard. Checked the registration. Karen tried to cry. Said she was being bullied. Said I had a personal vendetta. But it didn't matter. They wrote her a ticket on the spot. Warned her that the placard misuse could lead to more serious charges. And told her she was banned from using the handicap spaces unless she could provide valid documentation. As they left, one of the officers gave me a look, half amused, half impressed. Creative snow work, he said. I shrugged. Just doing my civic duty. After that day, things shifted. People I barely knew started coming up to me at the store, the post office, even during recess duty at school. They all said the same thing. Thank you. Thank you for standing up. For not letting her get away with it. For doing what everyone else had been too afraid to do. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she'd treated like dirt. A cashier at the local bakery told me Karen once tried to return a half-eaten pie because it had too much cinnamon. Another woman said Karen tried to report her to child services for letting her kid cry too loudly in the toy aisle. People had stories.
Lots of them.
But no one had ever pushed back. Not until now. Karen didn't come back to the store for weeks after the incident. And when she finally did, she parked way in the back. No more VIP treatment. No more front row drama. I heard she tried to file a complaint about me again, but this time, no one listened. The store manager waved it off. The community center still welcomes me with open arms. Even the Facebook group had my back. Someone made a meme of her SUV trapped in snow with the caption, "Winter Wonderland, Karen Edition." I didn't share it, didn't comment, didn't need to. I'd said my piece. And honestly, that was enough. The revenge wasn't just about the snow or the placard or the parking spot. It was about boundaries, about saying no more, about standing your ground, politely, firmly, and with a little creative flair. Mrs. Dupree still rides with me every Sunday. And every now and then, when we pass that spot in the lot, she chuckles and says, "I wonder if Karen ever found her way out of that snow globe." I just smile, because in a world full of entitled Karens, sometimes you've got to be the snowstorm. And I've got a full tank of gas, a snowblower, and plenty of salt.